Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know that my hair looks uneven AF. That's besides the point. This video is to discuss the books that I read in the month of May. In the month of May, I read 5 books for a total of 1,760 pages, and my average star rating was 3.8 out of 5. All the books that I read this month were pretty good. I wouldn't say any of them are a new all-time favorite. However, there were none that I thought were bad. All of them gave me some enjoyment, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about them. At the beginning of May, I was really on a mystery thriller kick, and I read 3 mysteries and thrillers in a week or two. The first of which was Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney, which I gave 4 stars. Our main character, Amber, is currently in a coma due to a car accident. However, she is still able to hear what's going on around her, even if she cannot respond or do anything. She doesn't know what happened in this car accident. She doesn't know what's currently going on with her husband or her sister, and a mysterious stranger is visiting her bedside every night. Personally, I think the identity of this mysterious stranger is so easy to figure out. However, this book does have lots of fun and unpredictable twists and turns in other respects. I was really enjoying this book. We have an unreliable narrator, which I love. Amber lies, hence the title, Sometimes I Lie, so you can't believe everything that she is telling you, and there are some things that are still left ambiguous in the narrative at the end. However, the reason that I did not give this book 5 stars is because the book had so many different twists and reveals that it kind of felt to me like overkill. Like the author was trying too hard to put in so many different reveals that it just became too much, and it stopped being genius writing and sort of started to feel like she was just throwing stuff at the wall to see what stuck. I think the final act of this book was weighed down just by way too many different twists and reveals that it just felt like it was too much, and I think if the author had just taken away one element of the ending, for me, I would have given this 5 stars. But because she did that, it just felt like, to me, that she was trying too hard. Also, I do want to say there is a graphic sexual assault scene in this book, and I never enjoy seeing rape or sexual assault used in books, but this one in particular was just extremely disturbing to me with some of the graphic details that I just found it even more off-putting than usual. The next book I read in May was another thriller, and that was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I've read 2 other Ruth Wares before, The Woman in Cabin 10 and The Death of Mrs. Westaway, both of which I liked but not loved. I do think this was my favorite out of the 3 Ruth Wares I've read so far, and I did give it 4 stars. Our main character, Rowan, lies on her application in order to get a job as the live-in nanny for this wealthy family who live in a smart house in the remote Scottish Highlands. Meanwhile, the framing device of our story is Rowan, who is now in prison writing letters to a solicitor trying to get him to take up her case because she has been accused of murdering one of the children. This is a play on The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, which was taught in one of my Victorian novels classes at college, and I think this story has a really great setting and atmosphere. I love the description of the Scottish Highlands. I went to Scotland on vacation, and it's just such a beautiful place, and I really loved this unique setting of the smart house, which I thought was so cool. I think that this was more successful in the mystery than the other Ruth Wares I read, because the others, to me, were either predictable and or nonsensical. This one was not as predictable to me as the other Ruth Wares I'd read. I definitely picked up on some of the subtle clues that she laid out in the story. However, I didn't feel like the ending was obvious or that it took away from the book. I think the thing about this book that let me down is the reveal comes way too late in the book. It's almost like the author just drops a bomb on you and then the story's over. I also think that the reveal didn't entirely make sense. Logically speaking, the ending is left ambiguous, but I was scratching my head a little bit about certain things, so I did not feel like that was dove into like it should have been, and I can't go into specifics about the ending because my mom's in the other room while I'm filming this, and she hasn't read this book, so I don't want to say spoilers when she might hear, but maybe I will go into specifics in a title card or something. So if you have read this book and you want to hear the specifics, then you can read that. The next book I read, I don't have a physical copy of anymore because it was returned to the library. This was the next thriller I read in May, and it was my least favorite, Final Girls by Riley Sager, which I gave 3 stars. Final Girls follows a main character whose name I've already forgotten, who is a so-called final girl because she was the only survivor of a cabin in the woods murder massacre which killed a bunch of her friends. Many years later, another one of the final girls is found dead under suspicious circumstances, and the third final girl comes to visit our main character, and we eventually find out the truth of what happened to the other final girl, and her repressed memories about the night when all of her friends were killed slowly come back to her. I personally didn't think this book was bad, but I had problems with it that hindered my enjoyment. It's really hard now for me to remember all the specifics of this book. Honestly, my memory of it is not that great, hence why I don't even remember the main character's name anymore. Quincy, her name is Quincy, and the other final girls are Lisa and Sam. Okay, there you go. It came back to me. So I think this book just didn't hold my attention while I was reading as much as the first 2 thrillers I read this month, which I was just anxious to keep reading to get further into the book. And there were parts of this that were just very slow going and not that suspenseful. I think the flashbacks in which we follow Quincy the night of the massacre were much more interesting than the present day timeline. I also didn't love the characterization. Sometimes things that Quincy would do just didn't make sense to me personally. And though the ending wasn't what I was expecting, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me and was a bit of a letdown. Also, really quick spoiler here, but the fact that the real killer was revealed to be Quincy's cop friend was really disgusting to me, considering Riley Sager had Quincy cheat on her fiance and sleep with Coop, only for him to later be revealed as the one who murdered all her friends. Like, I think having to throw the sex in there was just kind of gross to me, personally. I don't know, like, maybe she could, not have a one-night stand with a murderer. It's just really gross. Overall, I just think the concept behind this book was so much better than the actual book itself, but I would be open to reading more Riley Sager because I know people love his books. So if you think I should check out another one of his work, then let me know in the comment section. Next, I read something that wasn't a thriller. It was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, the prequel to The Hunger Games. I have a whole reading vlog for this that I will link down below, and I gave this book 4 stars.
This prequel follows a young Coriolanus Snow, the future president of Pan Am, when he is 18 years old. This is during the 10th Hunger Games, which is not nearly as stylized as we would see it in the original trilogy. And so Snow and some of his classmates are all assigned to be mentors to the district tributes in order to make the games more interesting and get people to watch. And Snow is really upset when he is assigned to mentor the District 12 girl, Lucy Gray Bard, but Lucy proves to have a personality that captivates the Capitol. Did I like this book as much as the original Hunger Games trilogy? I haven't reread the trilogy in a while. I was going to reread it before I read this, but it came in the mail and I was just too excited and I had to read this now. Now, from my memory, no, I did not like this better than I liked the Hunger Games trilogy. However, the negative feedback that it has been receiving, I think, is really unwarranted because a lot of people thought this book was going to redeem Snow, and it doesn't at all. There is so much amazing social commentary in this book, like I expect from Suzanne Collins, that I don't think is fully being appreciated. I think she perfectly captures the entitled straight white man mentality of Snow's character. So many lines just rang so true for me, and I also think she's really captured the empathy problem that I see us having in modern day America. There's a lot of ruminations on the nature of humans. Are we inherently good? Are we inherently bad? Are we born corrupt, or does the world corrupt us? And that was really interesting to think about. I really appreciate the book for that. I think a lot of other people, though, didn't like this book just because it wasn't as action-packed as the original trilogy, and they thought it was boring. Personally, I did not think this book was boring. I thought it raised so many interesting questions, and to see how the Hunger Games became what it was in the original trilogy was so interesting. However, I do think later parts of the book were slower paced, and I think that Suzanne Collins maybe could have taken the action-packed events of the last 50 pages or so and spread them out more so that it would have made more sense and been a better reading experience. However, overall, I did really like this, and I thought it was just so on point in so many aspects. Two other really nitpicky things that bother me about this book were that one, Snow's mother is mentioned to have died due to pregnancy complications, and I don't think the book ever even tells us her first name, despite the fact that Snow's father receives a first name, and that just seemed tired and a little bit sexist to me. Also, a character who Snow knows is mentioned having a husband, being a man who has a husband, but I don't think the husband ever actually appears on the pages before it's revealed that he died off page in the war, which just doesn't count as LGBT representation if the husband was killed off before the events of the book. Another character who is a very minor character is mentioned having a girlfriend, but the girlfriend never appears on the pages. Their relationship isn't given anything more than one line, and that's just not good LGBTQIA plus representation, you know? You can't just mention that a character is dating someone of the same sex and then either not to put the relationship on page or kill their spouse off page. That's just not representation. Nice try. Lastly, the fifth and final book I read in May was another mystery. Surprise, surprise! And that was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, which I gave 4 stars. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is one of the earlier Hercule Poirot mysteries. Now, Poirot does not need to be read in order. I have not been reading them in order, and this book is not going to spoil any previous entries if you wanted to start with this one, for example. So our title character, Roger Ackroyd's lover, has seemingly committed suicide, but before her death, she sent Roger a letter telling him
someone has been blackmailing her about the death of her late husband. However, before Roger can finish reading the letter and find out who was blackmailing his dead girlfriend, he's stabbed to death. And there is not a shortage of suspects of who might have possibly wanted him dead. I feel like that summary may have been so confusing if you haven't read this book, because I just talked about 3 mysterious deaths in one go, but all you need to know is that this is a mystery and our favorite Belgian Hercule Poirot is on the case to do what the police cannot and find out who is Roger Ackroyd's murderer. Overall, I really liked this, and it was a very quick read, as Agatha Christie's usually are for me. I usually finish them in 1 or 2 sittings because I just want to know, I just want to get to the end and find out what really happened. People say this has one of the most shocking endings of any Agatha Christie, and I've heard it frequently praised for that. I can't say I figured it out completely, but I also wasn't entirely surprised. There were lots of little details that Poirot had mentioned throughout the story, and I couldn't figure out what they possibly had anything to do with who the murderer was. However, when the killer was actually revealed, it was one of the 2 people who I was suspecting of having done it. That being said, was I just suspicious of this person because everyone told me the book had a shocking ending and I thought, hey, if this person did it, that would be really shocking? Yeah, probably. Really, the 2 people who I suspected for the majority of the book were the 2 people who I thought were least likely to have committed the murder. So that begs the question, is telling somebody that a book has a shocking twist a spoiler? I really don't have an easy answer for that. I mean, generally speaking, thrillers, even though I love them, they don't surprise me a majority of the time, because when I'm reading a thriller, I am suspicious of every single character. I always think about every character, well, maybe they're the murderer, maybe this was their motive, maybe they did it because X. So really, when I'm reading a thriller, is there a single person who could have done it that would 100% surprise me? Not really. I also think, as somebody who wants to write thrillers myself, I really pick up on the clues that authors lay, because I really read into pretty much everything the author says, and even sometimes the things that they don't say. That was a really long-winded way of saying that though the ending was not surprising to me, it wasn't obvious in a way that made me not enjoy the book. I still really enjoyed it, and I don't think it's the book's fault that I, in some aspects, rejected the ending. I don't know if anything I just said made sense. Hopefully it does. So those were the books that I read in the month of May 2020. Let me know, have you read any of the books that I read this month? Let me know in the comments. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Please like this video if you enjoy, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every single Wednesday. On a more serious note, deviating from my usual script, at the end of these videos, I have also linked down below some resources relating to Black Lives Matter and the murder of George Floyd by the Minneapolis Police Department. I don't want to talk about that too much in this video because I'm sure all of you out there know about it, and I know some people retreat to spaces like BookTube because they want to not have to think about these issues for a little while, but it's just been so upsetting to me and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I mean, I think every single person should be outraged by what happened, and I just want to use my platform to provide resources to help support Black Lives Matter. I hope that all of you guys stay safe out there. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in the next video.